SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Especially, so I found all the topics in this course really interesting, and it served my curiosity. I have a few doubts in few of the topics. Shall I ask them?
Sure, go ahead.
In the first chapter, there was a mention of Noam Chomsky and how he proposed a syntactic kind of understanding of language. It was mentioned in the course, but I came across a book called a paper called Language and Thought, where I found that he didn't support that view, and he relied more on the meaning. So which one should I consider, ma'am? It was actually contradictory.
Yeah, no, it's not contradictory. It sounds contradictory because Chomsky keeps updating himself. So the major part of Chomsky's theories have been syntax driven. Right. So in the beginning, he did not take semantics into account. Syntax was the more important part of it. So that is the time also when other researchers, and many of them his own students, also kind of went against his theory and proposed the cognitive perspective, and so all that happened during that time. But eventually Chomsky updated his theory, taking semantics also into consideration. Chomsky does that. Even some years back, he has again re-updated his theory. So he keeps changing, so that there is no problem in that there was initially he was focusing only on syntax. Thereby there was a debate, so to say, and not many actually agreed. More because this was the time when cognitive revolution was taking place, and a lot of focus was on conceptualization. So that is when Chomsky's theories did not make much sense to the wider audience. However, the Language and Thought book came much later. So yes, that is also a very famous book, and that is his later thought. Even later, he has incorporated some new things. So now he has changed. So his latest theory and his earliest theory are very different. So a lot of updating. So both are correct. There is no, they're not contradicting. They appear to be contradicting simply because Chomsky keeps updating himself. Nice to see your face though.
Okay, ma'am. Also, in the assignment of week 1, I found some questions which I couldn't understand. The questions go like the construal operations and dexes. Those parts I didn't find in the lecture, and I didn't understand those questions, ma'am. Could you please explain them?
Yeah, this was told to me by my TAs. I guess they resolved it later. There was some problem with the slides, I think. But we have uploaded an annexure or an extra part on the construal that probably got misplaced while handling it. It was part of the first module. Construal operation is nothing but actually construal is something that we will be covering throughout the course to like till I think 3rd or 4th module. Construal is nothing but creating your own reality, which language helps in. So so nothing is like given. The objective reality, does it exist or does it not exist? Of course, it's a huge philosophical question. But in this course, we start, our point of departure is that probably there is at a higher level maybe, but the one that we see, reality as we understand, that comes packaged in language. And that is when you have a subjective as in not person specific subjective, but culture specific subjectivity comes in. That is why the same thing can be represented differently. For example, you must have by now covered frames and image schema and all of that. So the frame for one particular concept can be different in different cultures, right? So So that is where, so how do we know that the frame is different is because the choice of words. There may be overlap between languages and between cultures, but need not be complete overlap, right? One example, I don't remember whether it is, I have talked about this in the course. For example, the idea of pickle. Any Indian, you don't have to explain what a pickle is, right? So you are from which state? Pune, Maharashtra.
Yes.
So
Yes,
your idea of pickle, and I am right now in Assam. So our idea of pickle, more or less, there is an overlap, right? So there might be slight changes here and there. For example, the masala might be different, the oil might be different, like that. But overall, the idea, that is the frame of pickle, remains the same. Now I take you and airdrop you in, let's say, Europe, and there also they have the word pickle. But what they refer to as pickle has no similarity with what we refer to as pickle. That is what we mean by, the words might be similar, but the frame behind the word is different. So this is one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is like when the same idea can be represented differently. So, for example, there is this idea of she ran through the field versus she ran across the field. Was this example in one of your slides in the initial parts?
no.
Person running through the field versus a person running across the field. Now, in both cases, what is happening here is the person who is doing the running is running, right? And it is she or he is running and going from one part of the field to the other part of the field. So as a result, both descriptions are correct. But by just choosing your word between either using across or using through, you are creating different construals. In case of through, what does it make you imagine? When you hear anything that anybody says, your mind automatically imagines a picture, right? So when I say she ran through the field, what comes to your mind? Grass, thick grass, and she's walking through or running through. But when you say she ran across, you don't see that. You see a point, a small dot, goes, right? Crossing. So this is the difference between these two construals. Same action, you choose your words and depict the same reality in two different ways. In one case, you are taking a long view. From a long distance, you are seeing somebody running across. But if you use through, you are making the speaker imagine a more closer view, like zoomed view of the scene. So this is what is construal. This is the idea of construal. Basically, the baseline is language. By choosing a word, what kind of word you choose, you give a completely different or at least slightly different meaning to it. And those meanings also vary across cultures, like pickle. So in the pickle in Europe, it's just vinegar. You put the vegetable in vinegar. That's it. That's pickle for them. And so even if somebody tells you that you get pickle here in Europe and you get all excited when you see that, the whole excitement will go. So these are the nuances.
Okay, ma'am. So does this topic come under frames? So is it related to
It is everywhere, like all together. So when you have looked at frames, you have looked at image schema. So image schema is a schematic part. Frame is let's say the fleshed out, more detailed part. So even if pickle shares the image schema, which is the image schema in this case, let's say, preservation of a fruit or a vegetable. Now at that part it is similar, but the frame of both the things are different. In our pickle also we are basically preserving the fruit, right? But our method of preparation is different. So it is frame, it is categorization, it is schematization, it is everything. So construal takes into account all of that.
Okay.
What is your background, by the way, Gopika? If you can, are you from linguistics background?
I am currently studying BSc Integral Psychology at MIT ADT University. So I am in the second year currently. MIT ADT University, Pune.
Pune.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so many of these are actually linguistic terms. Also, deixis, you mentioned deixis.
Yes.
Deixis is nothing but the pronoun system where you use the pronoun for, it can be a personal pronoun like he, she, hum, aap, tum, tu kind of thing, or it can be this, that, here, there. So for space and for time. For time is here and now and then. For space, it is here and there. So what happened, this altogether they are called demonstrative pronouns or deixis. Demonstrative because it tells us about the position of the ego and the position of the object about which we are talking. So anything that is near to me right now is here. And whatever is closer to you is there for me. But for you, it is the opposite. So that is why it is called demonstrative. So it depends on the ego. Ego as in the speaker. Okay. So deixis is that. So when I am speaking, I refers to me, Vidishashu. But if you speak, I will refer to Gopika. So that is why they are clubbed together as deixis.
Okay. There was another question. Which cognitive operations are part of meaning generation? I didn't know the exact answer, but I thought semantics was related to meanings, but the answer given was framing. So actually, I wasn't aware of that concept in the first week. So I was.
No, this is actually, of course, meaning generation is of course semantics, but that is from a linguistics perspective. But in this course, we are talking about semantics, not meaning, not in terms of semantics. So what is the difference then? So typically when you study semantics, semantics talks about the meaning of the words, as a result the meaning of the sentence. So if you know the meaning of each of the words in a sentence, then you understand the sentence. That is semantics. But for us in this course, meaning is not just the sum total of all the words taken together. Meaning is also the meaning in context. Right. So, for example, it is not very easy to make somebody who is learning English in the initial stages to make them understand why kicking the bucket means death. Now, you understand the meaning of kicking, you know what is kicking, you know what is bucket. But how is kicking bucket equal to death? This is, but then you understand the meaning, right? So this needs something extra. So the conceptualization that this particular activity supposedly connects to, for this you need to be in that culture. Yes. Suddenly you will not be able to understand that, right? So this is why conceptualization is our starting point, not semantics. Semantics is a surface level thing, but here we are looking at the background mental operation. That is why.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, and the topic of classifiers was also in a way interesting. How in some languages we have we refer to, in languages like that of ours, we refer to water as a mass kind of noun, but in other languages it's not so. But I couldn't understand the term grammatical number, and that term was not clear to me.
Okay, grammatical number. So number is quantity, right? So singular number, plural number. In grammar, we call them plural number, singular number, like this. Some languages also have dual number. Indian languages did have, now we don't use them anymore. So singular and plural. So that is grammatical number. So number in grammar is typically noted with the use of a particle like S. In English it is S. So boy, boys, girl, girls, right? So you have that. And then if you have to have something called numeral classifiers, we have one boy. In English, you can just put one, the word for one, and the boy for boy. But in many other languages in the world, it is not enough. After one, you have to add something that is specific to the word boy or the category of word to which boy belongs. So this is the example. This is the part where we talked about that Bai Balam Balan example, right?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
That so the Aboriginal language. So in some languages, what happens? It is not enough to put just the word for number and the noun. You need to also classify, as in put it into a category. What category of noun it belongs to? So is it a food? Is it a non-food item? Is it a human? Is it non-human? Various kinds of things might be important. What is important for one culture may not be important for another culture. So looking at language, you will know what are the important criteria for this culture to group things together, right? So for example, in Bengali, we have this very simple thing, like one boy will be ekta chele. I don't know how it is in Marathi. So how is it? How it is in Marathi?
Ma'am, actually, I'm a native of Tamil Nadu, but I stay in Pune
Okay,
here.
but does Tamil language have this one boy? How do you say one boy?
Just like one boy only.
One boy. There is nothing in between, huh? Nothing. Just give me one moment. Huh? I'm getting a call. Yeah. So in some languages, in Bangla, for example, that which is my mother tongue, we use ak ta chele. So one ak is one, chele is boy. Now in between there is this ta thing. What is it doing here? This ta is specific for boy. Had it been a girl, it will become T. Okay, so ak ta chele and ek me. So this ta T thing, this is called classifier. This classifies into male female category. But this is simple. In my Indian languages, this is very simple. But in some languages, the classification goes really weird. Weird as in from our perspective, weird, very different. So the example I have given in the slides is that of Bai Balan. So there is this language where you have to use one of those 4 words. Either Bai or Balan or Balam, one of them. Any one of them has to go with every noun. Now that is how you know if Bai is attached to, let's say, 100 nouns, all of those 100 nouns must be similar on some criteria. That is why they all take the same classifier. So this tells us, so these little things, this is a grammatical aspect, right? This is a grammatical component. And this tells us that this language has a very different way of classifying objects in the world into groups, which is specific to them. So that is why it is very different from one culture to another culture, from one language to another language. And if a language is classifier language, then another problem appears, which is the example that I gave, that there is no difference. So you cannot talk about table and wood as 2 different things. So if you are talking about table, then the name, ultimate final name for table will be wood. Then the classifier, which signifies the form the wood has taken, and then number. They will not say one chair. They will say wood turned into so and so shape 1. So that is the difference between. In English, it is very simple, 1 chair. So once it becomes a chair, it doesn't remain wood. But for classifier languages, it is still wood. Okay, so because they look at the material rather than the shape, or so the discreteness of the object doesn't matter in those languages. What discrete shape it has taken is not important. What is the material and what shape it has taken is told by a classifier. That's it.
Okay.
Simplifying life actually, but to us it looks complicated because our languages are not like that.
Ma'am, even in Sanskrit we have this kind of usage. I'm not sure whether it is a classifier, but there is a usage like ekaha balakaha. This is used to refer to one boy. If it is a girl, balika, then it is eka balika. It is not ekaha. So even in the word eka, there is an addition. It's a kind of
that is a gender info. That is gender. That's not classifier. It's just a gender marker. So it is there in Punjabi also. So if you have to say ek sundar, so in Hindi it is Sundar Ladki, beautiful lady, beautiful girl. But so in I think in Punjabi it is like this. So Changa Munda and Changi Kudi. So the adjective takes the A-E. So if it is the Munda is la boy, Chukudi is a girl. So if it is a boy, then same thing, Ekaha and Eka. So A-E, in this case A-E. So that is a gender marker, it's not a classifier. Classifiers are different things altogether.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, one more clarification about this classifier.
Yes, no problem.
Ma'am, this noun classifier, so if a language has that kind of noun classifier, only then will it be called a classifier language, or what is the main thing to call it a classifier language? So in Sanskrit, we have gender-based.
No, the distinction between whether a language makes a distinction between discreteness or not. That is the main component. So discreteness, as in, for example, English and all other Indian languages also, we go by discreteness. So the moment the wood has become a chair, it has become a discrete entity. It is not wood anymore. So these are noun class languages, and noun class languages are opposite of classifier languages. So in classifier languages, you take up any, so the Aztec, Mayan, many Mayan languages are also classifier language. So they will say, for example, the word for banana, so banana leaf, banana the fruit, banana plant, banana shoot, the root, everything will be called banana in that language. Okay, so we will say banana tree, it's not a tree, banana plant. Okay, banana plant, banana leaf, they won't say like that. They will say the, they will, depending on language, they will give it different names, what kind of shape it has taken. So let's say the flat, banana, flat, long will be the banana leaf. Okay, and then banana cylindrical, long means the stem of banana plant. They won't translate, it will be the main word will still be banana, right? Similarly for wax, the bee wax that you get from the beehives. So the word for candle and the word for wax in the beehive are the same. The root word is same, both are wax. So wax in liquid form and something else will be actually the object that you find in the beehive, and wax, and then again classifier, which means long and cylindrical, and then something else which means candle. So the word for both objects, the main word will remain the same, which is not the case in English, let's say. In English, we may say wooden chair, but it's not necessary to say whether it is a wooden chair, plastic chair, iron chair, nothing, right? A chair is a chair, a distinct identity on its own. That's not how the classifier languages behave. Classifier languages will tell you what material it is and the shape it has taken. So the name is a complex description of things, but it is a single word. It is a complex, these languages are usually slightly more complex than other languages. What looks like one word will look like a sentence. It's a pretty long word because so many things go into the same single word, creating a single word.
Ma'am, even in Sanskrit, there is this kind of using one word to refer to the products of a particular thing. Anything that is derived from till is actually thylum.
Yes, you got it. Yeah.
Though it is now used in different contexts to refer to other oils also as tail, but
right.
its original usage is that kind of grammatical thing. So even the leaf of a till plant can be called thylum. So is it a similar kind of?
It's a similar thing, yes. Okay. Similar, yes.
Nice.
You got it.
Okay.
It is similar. This is what we call semantic extension, but Sanskrit is not a classifier language because Sanskrit also has identifies discrete things. So anything that is a result of this is Tailam. The result of Til, connected to Til or derived out of Til is Tailam. So that this has a cause-effect sort of a relationship, and it is not as complicated as the classifier languages, because Sanskrit is also rich in discrete nouns.
Okay. Ma'am, one more doubt I have with respect to the concepts, frames, categorization, and schema. Actually, I can understand all these concepts in isolation, like each concept on its own, and the theories I can understand it well. But it was mentioned in one of the slides that there are synonyms of frames, which includes schema, gestalt. So it, in a way, in that sense, it was confusing for me to understand it. Also, one of the question in the assignments contained the answer for the definition of frame as both frame and categorization. So I thought it was frame and gestalt, but in that respect, it is confusing. Could you please explain that?
The question, I probably don't know which question you had problems, but I'm giving you a broad answer as to what is the. So categorization is something that is a fundamental process. Okay, so and frame is what is created out of that process. So categorization is not a thing. It is a process that we all the time we are doing. Every human, actually it is not even just a human thing. It is available in other animals also, because this is basic to survival. This is how it all started, right? So we needed to know whether when you see an animal, you have to very quickly categorize whether that animal can be your dinner or you can be its dinner, right? So this is how fundamental categorization was to our existence. It still is, but now we use it for many other purposes. So categorization is a process. Now frame is the overall understanding of that. That categorization as a process creates. To give you a simple example, let's say the idea of teaching. So there was a time the teaching means let's going back to our ancient Indian tradition of Gurukul system. So the teaching, the moment you say Guru Shishya Parampara, you don't have to tell any Indian about what it really means, the entire frame of Guru Shishya Parampara, right? You don't have to explain. In this case, the Shishya will be living in the Gurukul and they will take part in many other activities. They live there for 12 years and so on and so forth. This is something that is the frame. So Guru Shishya Parampara is a concept that has all the information into it, which has created the frame. Now you just tell this to somebody young today. Young people don't know about this, right? So if we just tell that Guru, what is a Guru? So Guru in today's world have a very limited meaning. Teachers are not anymore referred to as Guru, right? So here the frame that somebody who knows of that tradition and the frame of the same word that somebody of today's generation has will not map onto each other, because we have categorized the concept Guru very differently. So you see, so this categorization is a process that underlies the creation of frames in our mind. And once you go on and on living your life, having the same kind of experience over and over again, recurring experience, then our mind, your brain, whatever you call it, creates a very schematic understanding of the whole thing, right? So you may say, so it's very difficult, let's say, to teach somebody in a school today what a Guru is. So they will just think, okay, it's a teacher. No, if you just explain things, then okay, it's just a teacher. But Guru is not just a teacher. But then your schematic understanding was that there is somebody who has the wisdom or the knowledge, and there is another person who is seeking that knowledge. Transfer of that knowledge from person 1 to person B is called teaching. This is the image schema. And the frame is the whole picture of wherever you are. So if you are familiar with Gurukul, your frame will include Gurukul, you include today's university, today, all that. Somebody who doesn't have that much of exposure, only one kind of school, will have a smaller frame, let's say. But frame we will have, all of us. And all underlying all of these is the process of categorization. Right? Any other question?
Okay. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Devanjan, I think, wants to say something. Devanjan?
Good evening, ma'am. My name is Devanjan and I did my post-graduation in linguistics from Deccan College. Actually, I joined this course to explore my interest in psycholinguistics and cognitive anthropology, basically. So, like when I came across the notion of frame, categorization, and schematic theory, can we define? I was actually wondering if we can define like frame, like as an amalgamation of several events or amalgamation of several categorizations in terms of events, like in terms of actions. Can we actually do that?
Right, you are right. That's what I was just explaining to Gopika, that it is always an amalgamation. So you start with your frame of a particular, any particular idea when you were small, you were say 14, 15 years of age. That will be a small frame, so to say. But as you go through life, you include more and more information and your frame goes, so you include more and more, your frame gets bigger. So it's the whole idea that you generate out of all the experiences that creates the frame. That is why frames are, even though they map onto other members of the community, more or less roughly, but it can never be a one-to-one match. Mainly because of this. So the shared experiences. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Also, ma'am, I was wondering about one thing. Can we really like separate these three things? I mean, schematization, categorization, and framing from each other to define it? We cannot do that. No, we
cannot. Right? Ultimately, we cannot. You are right.
Because
but for the benefit of because this is an introductory course, so I had to keep it take one thing at a time. But at a higher level, no. Ultimately, they all merge and work together. You are right.
Yeah, and so I had a question. Like we are discussing about the development of brain. Like you were talking about the physical development of brain, where you were saying that humans are the only primates whose brain continues to grow after birth at a fetal ratio. So I was thinking, does it not happen at all? Like brain doesn't evolve at all before birth? Is it the case?
One moment, I was having some issue with I could not hear anything. Yeah.
So I was asking about one thing, like you were discussing that humans are the only primates whose brain continues to grow after birth at a fetal ratio. So right. I was wondering about one thing, like at the pre-birth stage, does the womb does it evolve at all, or does it not? The brain
involve what? Development?
Yeah, in terms of physical development, in terms of sensations, like when it is as a womb, like when it is developing, basically, like biologically it is growing, physically it is growing, but in terms of consciousness, obviously we cannot say that the womb has the consciousness at that moment. But obviously by time, when the time comes up at 9 months, like when the baby is coming out, from that point it starts growing, or is it like it was growing in the previous stage as well? That was what I'm asking.
It was very much growing, but the growth is not complete. For example, a lot of growth actually happens before birth in the prenatal stages. So, however, in the first few years after birth, it continues. But a lot of things already happen. For example, even language processing happens before birth. The sounds, the phonological aspect, the sound systems, the sounds that the child hears while inside, they can process. That has been also studied. So yes, majority of the brain is already developed, but after birth also some parts are remaining which develops after birth. So which is both as well as in terms of creating the networks and so on. So yes, a lot of development happens before birth also.
That is why they can, they can understand language. They can understand as in they can at least, notice. The brain takes note, even if they don't know what language is. The sounds, the brain is what do you call it? Sensitive to sounds, the mother tongue, mother's language, and so on. So yes, a lot of processing it keeps doing even before being out in the world.
Okay, ma'am. So in terms of language acquisition, it doesn't really depend on the so-called consciousness thing, that a human being has to be conscious enough to acquire language. Or
No. A lot of it happens before that only, because being conscious, well, that is also a huge area of debate and all that. What is consciousness? So we're not getting there.
Exactly, that's why I asked this question.
That's the, and it's like not even within the purview of this course. So it will become a different course altogether. But yes, language development happens at a certain level. It happens even before birth, as I said, and it also happens very, very rapidly in the first few months of life. So studies have, children are now studied at few days of after birth and few months after birth, and they actually have been found to identify human language from non-language noise. That is one, they can differentiate. And secondly, even when they distinguish language, they can do it between their mother tongue and any other language. I mean, they at least know that they are different. Even when they have absolutely zero idea, that's what we think, conscious idea about what language is, and that they are learning a language. Even before that, they have already learned quite a bit, which is quite an amazing thing if you look at it. Yeah. Yes, so Chomsky, after all, probably was right. Is right.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess in terms of like innate theory and like smashing down behaviorism, that is quite significant contribution.
Right. Yeah. So any other question, Devanjan?
Not yet, ma'am.
No. So you have doing your masters or completed your masters?
I finished my masters last year, in May. So in our fourth STEM, there was cognitive linguistics, neurolinguistics, but we were not able to, we haven't been provided those subjects because of certain issues. So I developed my interest in cognitive linguistics after my second semester, when I actually explored that to understand, to understand sociolinguistics, beyond linguistics, beyond taxonomical approach, you need to have some idea about the theoretical base of philosophy and mind.
Absolutely.
To understand how the emotion of human being functions, that is the dominant thing, which comes before language, the linear order of language. So during my PG, I was not able to explore much, and so that's why I joined this course to actually get some good idea to work upon.
Okay, so I hope we have found some answers at least. This is a very introductory course, by the way. This course is introductory because
after this course, I'm planning to go through the reading material so I can understand more.
Yes. That will help. Also, Devanjan and Gopika, since both only two of you are here, I have shared a link for feedback. Please fill that in, and also if you know the others, please tell them to do that. So do that also. Have you already filled in?
Not yet.
I have filled one of the weekly feedback forms.
Not only that, and there is another link. I'm doing a study on online learning. So it's not about within the course, it's outside of the course. It's there in the announcements. Please check, and also please tell others also to fill that. It's not part of the course, but I would still request.
Sure.
Have you shared the link in the chat?
No, not here. I can share. Okay, just give me one moment.
I found it in the announcements section.
Yes, it's there in the announcement. Can you please share the others also? It's there in the announcement part, yes. I'm actually looking, because I have been doing online courses for some time now. So this is a kind of a feedback actually. So what is your opinion, not only about this course, any online courses that you have done? So how do you think? What there are many parameters. It's a simple one. I would request you to, all of you, to fill that. And don't worry, your information will be absolutely strictly confidential.
Ma'am,
Okay.
I have one more doubt regarding the question the other person talked about. Yes, ma'am. So when we tell that language acquisition starts right from the beginning, then why is it so that pre-verbal concepts do not have influence of language?
That, of course, that takes, as Devanjan was also saying, this is a very tricky affair. We do not really know. I mean, this field is full of controversy. We don't know whether there is a language minus language thought or language always is with thought. I don't know whether we have had the last word on this, because yeah, Devanjan.
You continue, ma'am. I will say later. You were saying something.
So see, that depends on what is your point of departure. So in linguistics, if you are looking at like language and thought connection, then at a certain level it is impossible to not have an interaction between language and thought, because you need language to express, for example. But at the same time, there are thought processes which are not expressible in language. That is one. And so this may or may not have a one-to-one kind of a mapping. So we don't know whether pre-verbal is actually entirely non-verbal in the sense of a mental language. And if you take it even before that, so if you have read Sam Harris and people others like that, you will see that even the thought, what we think as conscious thought, is also preceded by something else, which is completely biochemical. So this actually going back, we don't really know how far back we can go to leave language behind and then thought behind and then end up with what. It's a very it's complicated, to say the least. Devanjan, I would like to hear from you also.
Yeah. I was wondering about this, like from this point, can we, like, in terms of language, so-called the thing language, the language as an entity, can we actually like call language only the means of communication?
No. It is not just a mean of communication. That is what the whole course is all about, right? It is beyond that. So it helps and modulates, at least if it doesn't determine, but at least it modulates the way our thought process on a particular thing is. So the language that you speak has some interaction. We won't today Sapir hypothesis is not anymore taken very seriously, but there is this neo-Whorfism which has come about in last decade or so, that
is it a soft theory you're talking about? Soft theory you are talking about?
No, Sapir-Whorfian theory, linguistic relativity.
Yeah, like there is a hard version and a short version, right?
Soft. Weaker. Okay, we're calling it soft. Yeah. Some people call it weaker version or a neo-Whorfism. So the neo-Whorfism school is all about checking it out. So on the surface, it might look like people speaking differently, think differently, but can we, experimentally verify it? So the most well-known study in this domain is the study on space, the language of space, spatial cognition and spatial language. So does your language affect the way you look at it. I mean, the way you encode space in your brain in a non-linguistic way, right? So there is a lot of study going on, and it seems there is probably a little bit of give and take. Okay, so so for example, very simplified example, though it is a very complicated area of research. This idea of on and above, for example, on, over, and above. In English, you have 3 different ways. And in some languages, let's say in Hindi, there is only upar. Now, upar is both on and above and everything, right? All the 3 are clubbed together in upar in Hindi. Now, does the brain distinguish between these 3 kinds of upar, or is it because you speak a language that doesn't distinguish, it's kind of a hazy? Is it is the boundaries fuzzy? How does it really work in terms of not only in terms of the words that we use, but also in terms of how you understand, also at a more objective level, how the neural network really reacts. A lot of work is going on now on that level. So one of my students also is working on exactly this. So he is trying to see 3 different languages having 3 different ways of spatial encoding, and then he will be eventually carrying out EEG work on the subjects to check if the brain has, if the network react differently. Are there, differential signals depending on the way language varies. So this kind of work are happening in some places to check the Whorfian theory. How, if at all, there is a limit, there is an impact, and if there is an impact, where is the limit? We are trying to figure it out. So,
is your student doing a PhD in IIT on this study?
Yes.
Brilliant. So, ma'am, we came across one fascinating thing in Deccan during my post-graduation. So, we went to learn German, basically, like the A1 course in Goethe Institute. So there we came across this girl, like I would not say her name, but the girl claims that she has synesthesia. Synesthesia, like, then we did some research, me and my friend. We did some research on it and came across this thing. It is a neurological conditioning. We cannot call it a disorder. It is a neurological conditioning where the one who has this capability can actually taste words, associate different sort of tastes with different sort of words.
Yes.
So, and the funny thing is the person will never forget that once she associates one's taste with that word, she will never forget that. So we actually tried on this, like we gave her like a set of words based on some phonological sequences. And again, after 2 weeks, we provided some of it and mixing up with another some words. So the answer was quite similar. So she personally claims that it has to do with the sound patterns, basically, not more of the meaning. Maybe the real life experience does matter to her, maybe something related to dal. She has associated it with Amitabh Bachchan, maybe somehow, at some regard, at some point of her life. Then she like remembers that term in terms of that concept.
Yeah, it is actually very interesting area of research. Sometimes some people also connect them with the colors.
Yeah.
Words or either sounds or words with colors. And it's fascinating, though I haven't done anything in this domain, so I cannot say much. But yes, it's an interesting.
We tried to do something on this, but we couldn't because of some ethical considerations and lack of formal setup. And obviously, the fund was there. We couldn't continue.
Yes. It's interesting to look at these cases using tools like brain imaging tools or even eye tracking, for example. Even if you can use eye tracking and you can get interesting results. Tastically, I don't know what, but you can still use eye tracking if you design the experiment smartly. Either eye tracker or an EEG will yield good result too. know what is
That
exactly
will,
happening.
but I mean, there has to have some form of neural firing when she is having this
Right.
test. Maybe it should, right? So you have to capture
Yeah.
that firing in order to prove. That was the hardest part of it. Because
Yeah.
it
So
will
for
have.
that you need EEG. You need EEG. Otherwise, it's not possible. With EEG, it can easily be solved. So there must be co-activation in the word recognition. So in the visual word from area in the brain, that is one area, that is a designated area in the brain. And simultaneously, she might also be activating some whatever test. In some people, it is a color or something. So if you see co-activation in color perception and word form perception in together, it will be sure that this is what is happening.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I studied that it is a disorder where unrelated brain areas work simultaneously. The sensory
Yes.
areas.
It's actually some people call it disorder. These days, many researchers are actually avoiding the word disorder in view of what do you call it, evolving literature in neuroscience. So to give you one example, till some years back, we used to call this. We still largely literature still calls the children on ADHD, or ASD spectrum. You know these, right? ADHD is hyperactivity.
Autism
Attention
also
deficit.
there, I guess.
Autism is a spectrum. So autism spectrum disorder, ASD. So these people, this is called a disorder. Even now they are diagnosed. They are clubbed together in one category. They are given therapy and all of that. But of late, there were two important theories that have come up that are saying that they are not disordered people. They are just different people. One theory said that that this is a slightly old theory, which says that for a long time we thought that Neanderthals and our Homo sapiens did not exist. However, recently it was found, sometime back, it was found that Neanderthals and Homo sapiens not only coexisted, but they also co-bred. I mean, there was a lot of interbreeding. So the theory is that it's probable that some of the Neanderthal genes are there in all of us. In some individuals, that some marker of those genetic materials get prominence and they appear different from the rest of us. And that is what we diagnose as a problem, as a disorder. In case of cognitive disorder, we're talking about cognitive disorder, not physical or brain anomaly related. So cognitive disorders are typically, there has been this very powerful theory that it is probably about genetic modifications in some sense, where the Neanderthal genes are speaking to us, we are not becoming visible. That is one theory. Another theory which came out quite recently is that there are two kinds of, the human brain has two layers, emotional brain and the logical brain, so to say. And so we have, in typical human, we have a lot of correlation between the emotional and the logical brain. So the deep brain versus the cortical region. In most of the brain imaging studies, we do the imaging of the cortical region. So we know which cortex does what. So visual cortex, auditory cortex, motor cortex, and so on. But there is this deep brain, the amygdala is there. There are other parts of the deep brain, which we haven't yet been able to map as well as the others. Okay. So the idea is that these are, because typically, so this theory gets strength from the finding that very often, not always, but quite often, many of the children on autistic spectrum are good in something. One important thing that stands out is mathematics seems to be an ability quite common in many hyperactive autistic children. Yeah. Right. So another finding is that many children also are very good in music. So this is yes, music and mathematics have been predominantly found to be, they are genius. They're not just good, they're genius. So why is
so
it?
If we say in terms of left brain and right brain, both like music?
Not that way. It is not just left and right. They're saying the theory is like, see, the social brain, or let's say the emotional brain, the what do you call it? He gave a name, I forgot the name now. So, the only logical, you take right, left, but then there are certain aspects which are processed in the only the deeper brain. Some things are not processed in the. So, for example, you have this disease called, this is again, it's called disease, it's called a disorder, which is called imposter syndrome, where you identify a person as looking like a person, but you fail to see that it is the person, right? So, for example, you see your mother and say that person looks like my mother, exactly the same features, everything, she looks like my mother, but she is not my mother. Whereas the person is actually your mother. So what happens in these people is that there is a disjoint between the amygdala and the visual processing part, visual cortex. So so when we see a person and identify the person, it is not just the visual cue that we are taking. We are also associating the emotional aspect that we have with that person. So somebody very close to you, this disease is only seen in case of people who are with respect to the close people, like your near and dear ones, family and close friends and all that, where emotion is one of the components of identification. So in these people, that connection to amygdala is lost for whatever reason, tumor or trauma, head trauma or something, and then they lose this connection, and as a result they fail to identify. Another thing they're also saying, what if what we are saying, because all the data also is because of the increasing number of autistic children in today. This was not so much just 20 years back. One reason could be, of course, reporting. More people are aware, more people are reporting, but even then the number has gone up. So the theory was, what if we are seeing evolution right in front of our eyes? So the future of human race will be non-sentimental, non-emotional, but yes, in this sense, you will have some of the reasoning, some capacities which are non-emotional capacities, and that is what the future of human looks like. So that is another theory.
There is a high chance of losing some human faculties of human mind, because of certain social reason.
Yes. So all of it goes together, not in the same place. So the influence from outside world, and then how the brain adapts, and all of that. So evolution is going on right in front of our eyes, and yes, so probably that is the way forward. We don't know. It might look off today, but this might as well be a reality 100 years down the line. Who knows? That's the theory says, by the way. I don't know. Gopika, you have another question?
Yes, ma'am. Could you please explain the concept execution schema? I couldn't understand that, ma'am. Under computational modeling in the chapter image schema.
I have to go back to the slide execution schema. And can you just give me a little bit more of what was there?
Yes, ma'am. Conceptual structures which emerge out of interaction between environment and bodily experiences. And under this, you give an example about neural theory of language project. And there was something called execution schema, X schema, that I couldn't understand.
I have to go. I'm really sorry. Garima, you can, Gopika, you can send me the mail on this. I will give the explanation there. I have to go back to the, just send me a mail. My email ID must be there.
I don't know your email ID exactly.
I am giving it right here. Okay. So you can send in your questions to me directly also.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I have a doubt about the pattern of the examination. So what kind of questions can we expect, ma'am? Short answer, long answer kind of, or will it be
largely? Yeah, it's the same pattern only, largely the same pattern, but I'm not supposed to tell you exactly what will be there. But largely it is similar. So some of it will be from the already used assignments, some percentage of it. Similar kind of, not long answer types. Pattern is more or less similar.
Will there be no descriptive questions?
I cannot for reasons of... but yeah, largely there are not.
I see.
Ma'am, and I would like to just inform you about one thing that I came across in the assignments. Some few of the questions, I think the options were based on the subsequent chapters. So I had, when I had covered the week's content, all the video lessons and the lecture notes, finally I go back to the assignment and try solving them. I found some of the terms totally new, and I submitted the assignment. So when I watched the next week's content, I found the answers for those questions. So some of the questions had the options, for example, the options that had frames, prototypes, and other things. I wasn't familiar of that concept when I attempted that assignment. That's why I chose semantics, was because I thought semantics was more related to meanings than other options that were given. So I just guessed it that way because I didn't know what was frames and prototypes exactly in that context in week 1.
Okay. Maybe I have to look at it. Can you just do me a favor? You can exact question and the module for which that question was. I mean the part of the module. You can just mail me. I will look into it.
Sure.
How
And
many such instances were there?
Some
How many
3 or
such
4.
questions?
Some 3 or
Till
4
now.
questions. Yes,
Okay. So you can just mention the questions and the module in the mail. I will get back to you as quickly as I can.
Okay, ma'am. And even in the week 3's assignment, there was a question. The question was actually a definition, a mental representation, structured mental representation of a conceptual category is, and the options were frame, categorization, gestalt, and both A and B. So I thought frame and gestalt would be right, as they were mentioned as synonyms, but I thought categorization was not necessarily referred to in this definition. But I found that after the deadline, I found that the answer was A and B, that is frame and categorization. So that was a little...
No, gestalt will not be an answer because it is already taken care of by frame. So these are this is a trick question actually. So
okay, ma'am.
Yeah, so the gestalt and frame, because frame is called by different names by different people. So gestalt is one of them. So that way it is taken care of. So that is how categorization. There are some trick questions like this, but other than that, if there are no serious problems, you can always write to me. I will take care of it immediately.
Yes, ma'am. I have one more doubt in the same assignment, week 3. There was this 16th question, additional mappings in the conceptual metaphor frame that are present but not always utilized. I thought the answer was entailment, but the answer was actually both entailment and inferences.
Yeah, they are the same. They are similar, no? Entailment is an inferences also. So that is understood, even though it is not really spelled out. It is understood because inferences are something that are connected to entailments but not same, right? So both are correct that way.
Okay, ma'am.
Again, this is a trick question.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much for clearing all the doubts.
You are welcome. And if there is anything more remaining, you can always write to me.
Sure. Ma'am, will there be another live interaction session? So far, I have covered only the first 4 weeks content.
I think there is another. I think there is another. You will get to know. I have to check. I think there is another sometime later, towards the end of the course, probably. Not sure. Otherwise, also, as I said, you can all. I have given my email ID. Even if there is no live question, you can write to me. Not an issue.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, welcome. I think we are done. Rekhaji, if we are done, we can maybe because there is no more question. ठीक है, so we can go off live now. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.